The first time I saw Ari, she was standing alone in the observation dome, bathed in starlight and utterly still. Her skin shimmered a pale blue, like the surface of deep ocean water reflecting distant moons. Strands of what looked like soft feathered hair floated gently behind her, swaying even though there was no wind. And those eyes, wide, golden, endlessly alert, didn't blink once. Not even when she noticed me. I'd been told she was one of the first Valiant exchange students on Horizon, part of some long-term cultural diplomacy initiative. I was her assigned human liaison, which I assumed meant occasional check-ins and awkward translation software updates. Instead, it turned out I was also her roommate, tutor, emergency contact, and unofficial guardian of all things weird and human. She spoke softly, rarely interrupted, and watched everything like she was seeing it for the first time. The first few days were uneventful. I offered her Earth snacks. She hated peanut butter, tolerated popcorn, and became quietly obsessed with strawberry-flavored jelly. She was especially curious about music, not classical or instrumental, but human vocals. Voices, as she said, with blood behind them. She didn't quite explain what that meant. We shared quiet evenings where I'd play her songs from earth-old rock ballads, acoustic folk, jazz full of pain, and she would sit with her knees tucked beneath her, glowing faintly, listening like the music was alive and whispering secrets. In return, she taught me about Velian star lore, stories told not with words, but melodies shaped to mimic gravitational frequencies. Her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was resonant. I could feel it vibrate in my bones. Strange, but oddly comforting. One night, I noticed she hadn't dimmed her quarters. Her lights were always on, just low enough not to glare, but never fully off. I asked about it. She hesitated, her gaze avoiding mine. "Our skies are always lit," she murmured. "I don't like the dark." It surprised me. For a species that evolved on a planet with 3 moons, you'd think darkness was familiar. But she just looked away and changed the subject. That same night, I was half asleep, curled under a thermal blanket, when the door to my quarters hissed open. I sat up grudgingly and saw her standing in the doorway, glowing blue and clutching a thin Velian blanket. Her golden eyes were wide, her breath shallow. "Can I sleep next to you tonight, human?" she asked. I blinked, confused. What?" "There was something in my room," she said quickly, stepping in. "It wasn't Velian. It wasn't you. It moved without sound. It left no trace on the sensors, but I felt it. The look in." Her eyes snapped me awake. I got out of bed, grabbing my sidearm from the drawer. "Like an intruder?" She nodded, feathers trembling. "A dimensional echo. A thing not meant to be here." Despite the chill in my chest, I kept my voice steady. "All right. We check the room first. If it's there, we deal with it. You would fight it?" She asked quietly. "If I have to," I replied, loading a phase cartridge. Welcome to Earth-style hospitality. Her quarters were colder than they should have been. Not just chilly, but unnaturally still, like the air itself had been drained. Her lights flickered as we stepped inside. The usual motion sensors were dead. No heat signatures, no traces. But on the far wall, I spotted something like static burned into metal. A jagged black mark shimmered for just a second, then faded. "Bets?" "New," I muttered. "A," I called. "Analyze anomaly." The station responded in its usual monotone. Subdimensional residue detected. Entity briefly phased into local reality. Classification: unidentified. Probability of return: 87%. Ari clung to my arm. "It watches," she whispered. I looked at her and nodded. "It won't get past me. You're safe now," she blinked, finally. "You believe me?" "Of course I do." I sighed without hesitation. I knew enough about her species to trust their instincts. Velian biology was tuned to quantum fluctuations. If she said something crossed over, I believed her. The only thing I didn't understand was why it came to her room. I stayed up that night. She curled up near the bed, glowing faintly like a sleeping flame. Just before drifting off, she whispered, "They say humans are primitive, emotional, but you act without fear." I smiled in the dark. "Oh, I'm definitely afraid. We just pretend we aren't. It's one of our better tricks." She gave a soft flutter of laughter, a strange strength. I watched her until her breathing steadied and her glow softened. And in that quiet, unreal hour wrapped in dim blue, light and the aftertaste of something wrong, I knew the story between us had just begun. The night after Ari slept near my bed, something in the station changed. It wasn't obvious. Not at first. The lights still flickered the way they sometimes did when the outer solar collectors rebooted. The air still hissed gently through the filtration vents. The eyes still greeted me in the same monotone that made even good mornings sound like warnings. But something in the rhythm of the station, its heartbeat, was off. Slower, tense. As if Horizon itself was holding its breath. Ari hadn't said a word that morning. She sat cross-legged near the wall, blanket wrapped around her, her feather-like hair trailing over one shoulder like frost-touched ivy. Her glow was dimmer than usual. Her eyes, though, those golden, never-blinking eyes, were fixed on the sealed door. Waiting, I offered her breakfast. She didn't respond until I placed the tray beside her. "I did not sleep," she said softly. I sat beside her, trying not to make it feel like an interrogation. "Did it come back?" "No," she replied, "but it never left." That answer sent a shiver down my back. I stood and pulled up a diagnostics panel on the wall screen. No anomalies detected. No energy fluctuations, temperature shifts, or unauthorized system breaches. The logs showed nothing. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Later that afternoon, I passed by one of the observation corridors on Deck 9. The viewport glass had developed strange patterns, circular smudges like oil slicks left behind by unseen fingers. I pressed my palm to the surface. Cold. Too cold. I reported it to maintenance, but they brushed it off as condensation from the pressure difference between sectors. But when I turned to leave, I caught something in my peripheral vision. A smear of movement, black like ink leaking into water. I spun around, nothing there. Just the corridor stretching behind me, empty and silent. Back in our quarters, Ari was humming. Not a song I'd heard before. Low, layered tones that vibrated against the floor. The sound wasn't coming from her mouth, it came from her whole body, like she had become a living tuning fork. I crouched near her, touched her shoulder. "What is that?" "It listens," she said without opening her eyes. I must confuse it. That night, I stayed fully armed. Sidearm on the nightstand, emergency beacon prepped. I didn't sleep either. I watched her. She watched the shadows. Around 2:47 a.m., the temperature dropped again. The AS sensors blinked out for 3 seconds. Just long enough, I felt it. Before I saw it, the air thickened. My ears popped like we were diving deep underwater. Then the sound. Not a noise exactly, but a pressure. Like someone was screaming in a frequency only my bones could hear. The lights didn't flicker this time. They died, and then I saw it. It shimmered into view slowly, unfolding like a spider stretching after sleep. Tall, angular, wrapped in oily darkness that seemed to consume light. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth face that didn't face anything. Joints bent in wrong directions. Fingers too long. Too sharp. It was inside our room. My hand went for the sidearm. Ari was already behind me, clutching my arm. glowing brighter now like her body refused to let the dark take her. Raised the weapon and fired. The first shot passed through. No impact. The second was phase-pulsed. It struck the creature square in its chest. The thing reared back, shrieking in that awful, soundless vibration that rattled every memory I had loose. And then it lunged. I stepped forward. It didn't attack me. It reached past me straight for Ari. She cried out as its claws slashed the air near her. I unloaded the rest of the charge into its core. With each hit, it shimmered and flickered, as if struggling to hold itself in our reality. And then, with a final silent scream, it was yanked backward into nothingness like a shadow being erased. The lights flickered back on. Ari collapsed to the floor, breathing hard, her glow pulsing like a weak heartbeat. I dropped to my knees beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, voice trembling. "It was hunting me." I looked around the room. The static smear on the wall had returned, larger now, like a wound. "Why?" I asked her. "What does it want from you?" Ari looked at me with eyes full of quiet terror. "I don't know. But it's not finished." I pulled her into my arms before I could second-guess myself. She was shaking. "You're safe," I whispered. "As long as I'm here, you're safe." She looked up at me in stunned silence, as if unsure how to respond to that level of certainty. "Why do you do this?" she whispered. "I am not your family, not your species." I tightened my grip just enough that she felt it in her bones. "Doesn't matter. You're mine to protect." Her lower lip trembled. She leaned into me just a little. Not like she was seeking comfort, but like she had finally accepted it. Then the station AI chimed in again, voice colder than usual. "Warning. Subdimensional rift distortion detected. Internal gravitational anomalies increasing. Entity return. Probability updated 94%. The lights dimmed again, and this time they didn't come back on right away. I woke up to a sound that didn't belong. It wasn't the usual hum of life support or the lazy pings of the AI running self-diagnostics. It wasn't Ari humming in her sleep or the distant churn of the hydroponics engines. It was a low vibration, a living tone. It crept into my bones like the hum of a buried wire, almost music, almost language. And it was coming from Ari's room. I rolled out of bed, weapon already in hand, and approached her door. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't even closed. Just slightly ajar, a thin blue light spilling into the corridor. I pushed it open slowly. She stood in the middle of the room, eyes closed, arms slightly raised. Her feathers were fully extended, catching the light and refracting it into soft halos on the ceiling. Her entire body glowed now, not the gentle pulse I was used to, but something deeper, richer, like she was remembering what it meant to be alive on her world. And she was singing, but not with her voice. The tones came from her chest, her hands, even the tips of her fingers. Velian song wasn't made to be heard. It was made to be felt. And I felt it now pressing into me, dragging out memories I didn't even know I had. My father's voice. My first heartbreak. The quiet wonder of my first time looking up at Earth's moon. Her song reached into me. When she finally stopped, I felt dizzy, hollowed out. Like part of me had been stretched and examined and gently returned. She opened her eyes. "It listens," she said. I blinked, still catching my breath. "What does the thing?" she whispered. "It follows vibration. It doesn't understand speech. It understands pattern." My song, it confused it, scared it. "You sang to scare it off?" I asked. She nodded. In our culture, we have stories of beings that crawl along timelines, hunting echoes. They're drawn to anomalies, things that shouldn't exist. I think I am one of those things. I stared at her. "What do you mean?" Ari lowered her head. "I wasn't supposed to be born." "Not like this." The elders said my frequencies were unstable, that I was too resonant. You said you were taught that humans were emotional, I said quietly, but you're terrified. Yes, her voice trembled, because I think I've been echoing something this entire time. And now it's echoing back. The lights above us flickered. This time, only in her room. The floor buzzed under my feet. Then the AI spoke. Warning. Localized space distortion detected. Gravimetric. Anomaly forming within quarters D21. Signature resonant. I checked the room number. 521. That was Ari's room. This room. The lights went out. Something was coming. I pulled her toward me and hit the emergency lockdown. A thick blast door slammed down over her window, and the inner wall shimmered as the kinetic barrier activated. I'd rerouted power earlier. In case this happened. Stay behind me, I said. She didn't argue. The air pressure shifted, like we were sinking into something invisible. I raised my sidearm, now loaded with a reinforced phase clip. Whatever it was, I didn't want to just delay it. I wanted to hurt it. The creature shimmered into view slowly through the wall. Not in the wall, but through it. Like it had forgotten which dimension belonged to it. It was taller this time. Leaner. Its body seemed to ripple with friction like it was being pulled apart and held together all at once. There was no face. Just a surface that reflected only shadows. And then it did something new. It spoke. Not in words. Not in sound, but into my mind. Like a whisper across a shattered mirror. She is the gate. She does not belong to your world. I gritted my teeth. She belongs where she's safe. She belongs to the silence. I opened fire. This time, the phase round stuck. The thing recoiled, flickering like a corrupted hologram. It screeched in that god-awful frequency again, and I could see Ari covering her ears in pain. I shifted in front of her. The creature surged forward, claws aimed at her throat. I grabbed the kinetic pulse baton and slammed it into its core. It didn't scream. It sank, like gravity itself was rejecting it. And then it was gone, torn backward through the wall it had emerged from, leaving a smoldering void in its place. The AI flickered and rebooted. The lights returned. I rushed to Ari. Her glow had dimmed. She was barely breathing. I grabbed a portable scanner. Her vitals were chaotic, heart rate off charts, quantum signature wildly unstable. Her eyes fluttered. Open. It touched me. I froze. Where? Not my skin, she whispered. It touched my frequency. I stared at her, at the slowly dissipating smoke in the air, at the warped wall. You said it's drawn to anomalies, I murmured. What if it's not hunting you to destroy you? Her voice cracked. Then what? What if it's trying to merge with you? She didn't answer, but deep in the room's shadows, where light failed to touch, something shifted again. And this time, I wasn't sure we had driven it away. 3 days passed. None of them felt real. Since the creature's last appearance, I had barely left our quarters. The station's corridors felt longer, the walls tighter, the shadows more eager to cling. I didn't trust the lights anymore. Or the silence, especially the silence. Even when Horizon hummed its usual tune, air vents, reactors, doors sliding open with polite mechanical sighs, there was something beneath it all now. Like static hiding under a lullaby. Ari hadn't spoken. Since the incident, not much anyway. She slept a lot. Or at least pretended to. When she did speak, her voice was hoarse, as if the thing's presence had scorched her vocal cords in ways medicine couldn't fix. I noticed something stranger. She wasn't glowing. Not at all. Velians didn't stop glowing. Even in sleep. Their bioluminescence responded to the pulse of their own breath. But Ari's skin had gone dull, pale. Her feathers didn't sway gently anymore. They lay flat, lifeless, And worse, her reflection was wrong, not by much. Just a delay, a flicker. Like her image in the mirror hesitated a split second behind her body. I caught it the first time when I handed her a glass of water. She took it. Her reflection didn't. I didn't tell her. Not yet. Instead, I dug through the station's restricted archives. I used my access as liaison, pushed protocols, and bypassed firewalls I wasn't supposed to touch. I wasn't looking for ghosts or monsters. I was looking for frequencies. Ari had called herself resonant. She'd said she wasn't supposed to be born, that her kind had stories of beings that hunted echoes in reality. It sounded like myth, except I had seen one. I found it in the deep system logs of Velian diplomatic files entries the Council thought were erased. Years ago, there had been another Velian born with unstable frequency patterns, a boy named Kellis. Same symptoms. Glowed too bright. Heard vibrations others couldn't. Slept with lights on. He vanished at age 9. The file noted only one thing. Subject likely absorbed by harmonic breach. Gate error. Record sealed. Gate. Again that word. When I returned to the quarters, Ari was awake, sitting up on the floor. Her eyes were dull, and yet when she looked at me, something deep behind them moved. I dreamed I was singing, she said, but it wasn't me, it was it. I knelt in front of her. Ari, I need to ask something strange, and I need you to be honest with me. She didn't answer, just waited. When you sing, I said slowly, do you feel like something listens from the other side? A beat. Then, always. She reached forward and placed her fingers against my forehead. Her skin was cold, too cold. Then she leaned in and whispered, I was never alone. That night, the power across the entire deck flickered out. Emergency lighting failed. Backup systems tripped offline. Gravity surged for 6 seconds, just long enough to slam every loose object into the ceiling, including Ari, who I caught midair and slammed into the floor beside me, shielding her with my body. Then the lights returned, and so did the sound. Low tone, vibrating through the metal, through our bones, through my teeth. My vision blurred. Ari screamed. I looked at her, and her body was glowing again, but this time it wasn't her soft Velian blue dot, it was blacklight. Shadows masquerading as luminescence. I pulled her toward me, heart racing as her eyes rolled back. Her skin shimmered with rapid pulses, as if something beneath it was trying to claw its way out. And then she spoke, not in her voice, in a deeper one. Broken, like 100 voices whispering together. The gate is opening. I backed against the wall, dragging her with me. Ari, fight it. But she only laughed. A sound I will never forget, mocking. Familiar. It sounded like me. The station. I blared a warning. Gravitational convergence detected. Source, subject Ari, event magnitude, increasing. Recommend full isolation. But I didn't isolate her. I held her tighter. I'm not letting go. I whispered, and somewhere beneath her skin, beneath her glow, beneath whatever reality had twisted around her, a tear opened in the fabric of the room. Not a door. Not a portal. A mouth. And it was smiling. She didn't wake up for 17 hours. Not really. Her eyes opened. Her body breathed. She mumbled things, fragments of words, snatches of languages I didn't recognize. But none of it was her. The real Ari, the curious starlit girl who loved strawberry jelly and asked impossible questions about Earth music, was gone, and something else had worn her voice like clothing. I didn't leave her side. I rerouted the station's internal surveillance feeds to a secure local loop and locked our quarters down under level red manual override. No AI oversight. No third-party monitoring. Just me, Ari, and whatever the hell was trying to speak through. Her body radiated heat and cold in alternating waves. Her skin no longer shimmered with the soft glow I'd come to associate with her, no. It pulsed in fractured spectrums like a dying star split across timelines. Her feathers were rigid. Her fingers twitched like broken antennae. Sometimes she'd whisper, always the same words. The silence is not empty. The silence remembers. The AI had gone silent after the last incident. All command requests returned a single, chilling response. Containment protocol active. Subject Ari classified as quantum unstable. Awaiting council review. I knew what that meant. They wanted her dead, not out of cruelty but fear. I wasn't about to let that happen. I pulled every diagnostic tool I had access to. The results made no sense. Her neural patterns didn't just spike, they overlapped. Multiple readings layered on top of each other like echoes out of sync. Like there were more than one consciousness inhabiting her mind. Some slightly delayed. Some advanced. Some ... reverse ... Ari. Wasn't just being possessed ... she was becoming a convergence point. And that's when I saw a dot in the medical scan overlay, a faint pattern running down her spine. Not biological, not Velian. A geometric sequence burned into her neural tissue like a cosmic fingerprint. Spirals, fractals, echo loops. I cross-referenced it against the Velian restricted data again. Found one match. The first thread. Velian myth. Described it as a song left behind by the universe's first breath. A living frequency that drifted between dimensions, waiting to be heard. The legend said those who carried the thread were rare-born once every 1,000 star cycles, and were meant to be anchors between planes ... or conduits ... and now the silence. Had found one. I reached for her hand. Her fingers closed around mine, automatically, instinctively, and for a moment, just a blink of clarity. Her eyes met mine. Golden. Wide ... real. Help me, she whispered. Then her body arched, rigid. A violent hum filled the air ... and then everything stopped. Gravity reversed for less than a second. The walls bled shadows. My nose burst with blood as pressure crushed against my skull. And in the center of the room, above Ari's trembling body, a shape began to form. Not matter. Not energy. A silhouette of thought ... black. Spiraled. Pulsing in and out of reality. It hovered, twitching, featureless and ancient. I couldn't move ... my muscles didn't obey me. Then it spoke, not in sound, but in memory ... it forced images into my mind. A ruined Velian temple. A child singing alone in the dark. A rift in the sky bleeding starlight. Ari, as a baby, cradled in the arms of someone not of this world ... and then a sentence, etched directly into my thoughts. She was never yours to protect. She was ours before she was born. I screamed, fought to break free, raised my sidearm with bloodied fingers and fired blindly into the shape. Light cracked. Air shattered. The entity recoiled, not destroyed, but staggered, and the room convulsed. Around us, everything tipped sideways. Ari convulsed and let out a piercing cry not of pain, but of rejection. You don't own me. And the thing vanished. Just like that ... Ari collapsed, gasping, curled against me. Sweat covered her brow. Her glow slowly began to return, blue and flickering. I saw it, she whispered. The place it comes from, a space between time. It feeds on the forgotten, on the lost. It doesn't want to kill me. It wants to wear me like a path. I held her close, hand shaking. We're going to stop it. I said ... She looked up at. Mom, no, she whispered. We can't stop it. We have to close the gate. And behind her eyes, I saw something else now ... something vast. Something watching. Something waiting for her to open again. The next 30 hours passed in fragments, blurred moments of motion, light, breath, fear. Neither of us slept. We couldn't. Every time Ari drifted off, she jolted awake gasping, clutching her chest as if something was clawing its way out of her ribs. The glow beneath her skin had stabilized slightly, no longer pulsing like a wounded signal, but it still wasn't the same. It felt borrowed, like she was being lifted from somewhere far away. And me? I had started seeing shadows where there weren't any, not movement, not illusions, just darkness that lingered where it shouldn't, gathering in corners and outlines, like it was waiting to be given form. The silence had touched us both now. It had tasted Ari, and it had seen me. I spent the early hours hardwiring a dimensional disruptor out of discarded station emitters, phased relay capacitors, and a relic from the security bay, an old Earth-made kinetic pulse grenade. It wasn't legal. Hell, it wasn't even safe. But it might just be loud enough to shatter the creature's tether to this plane. Assuming we ever saw it again, but Ari was already ahead of me. She'd begun drawing symbols, spirals, patterns. That looked like weather systems having a nervous breakdown. She didn't seem conscious of doing it either. I'd turn away, look back, and another page would be covered in tight, microscopic ink. "The gate is listening," she whispered once. "You said we have to close it," I said. "How?" She looked up slowly, eyes clearer than they'd been. "In days? You have to break me," she said. The words hit like a hammer. "What? If I'm the conduit, the thread, the bridge?" She swallowed, struggling. "Then I'm the crack in the door. If you destroy the bridge, the door can't open." I stared at her in silence. The kind of silence that fills your lungs with acid. "You want me to kill you?" "No," she whispered. "I want you to stop it. If that means I don't survive." I turned away before I said something I'd regret. My hands clenched into fists hard enough that blood welled beneath my fingernails. I didn't care what ancient code had buried itself in her spine. I didn't care what kind of cosmic gate had been encoded in her voice. She wasn't just some relic or prophecy. She was Ari, my alien girl. And I would burn the stars before I let her go out like this. So I did what any human does when faced with something too big to understand. I got angry. "You're not dying," I said. "I'm done letting shadows write our story." That's when the room went silent. Not quiet. Silent. No hum of life support. No lights, no movement. Even gravity paused, just enough that we felt weightless, like two souls suspended in the breath of a sleeping god. And then the gate opened. Not a door, not a rift, a presence. The ceiling above us split like paper, not physically, but in that way only reality can fracture. Something stepped through, or rather, something unfolded through it. Tall, faceless, cloaked in a mist that didn't drift, but bled. Its arms were long, too long. Its steps didn't make sound, they stole it. I stood in front of Ari, weapon raised. Her hand gripped the back of my jacket. The creature tilted its head, not at me, but toward her. And then, for the first time, it spoke aloud. "Open the song, Arizai. You are the frequency. The first resonance. You are the passage." Her voice cracked behind me. "I won't." It began to move forward. I fired. The shot exploded in a burst of phase energy. The creature convulsed but didn't stop. I threw the grenade. The blast wave tore the air sideways, sending me tumbling into the wall. My ears rang. The creature stumbled, body fragmenting in and out of dimension but not dissolving. Then Ari stepped past me, glowing again. Fully. Brighter than ever. She sang. A single note. Not high, not low. Pure. The creature screamed, not with noise, but with rejection. The frequency shoved it back, pixel by pixel, breaking its shape apart like static in reverse. Her voice climbed, harmonized with itself. The gate pulsed above us, stuttering. "Keep going," I shouted but blood was pouring from her nose. Her skin cracked under the pressure. Her knees buckled, but she kept singing. The gate started to close. I ran to her, held her as she shook, her body humming like a struck crystal, and then the silence exploded. The gate snapped shut like a vacuum-sealed tomb, pulling the last fragments of the creature with it. The room collapsed into stillness. Ari collapsed into my arms. She was cold, but breathing. Her skin no longer shimmered, no longer flickered, just soft. Faint blue. Real. Alive. She opened her eyes slowly and looked at me like she wasn't sure whether I was dream or memory. "I didn't want to leave," she whispered. I smiled, tears blurring my vision. "I didn't want to let you." Outside, the station alarms finally stopped, but something new had begun. In Ari's chest, where the first thread had once hummed wild and raw, there was now quiet, and we both knew that quiet had a cost. The aftershock lasted longer than the event itself, not physically. The station stabilized within hours, gravity restored, life support resumed, diagnostics reset. Engineers ran protocols. Reports were written. The damage was officially classified as a quantum field disruption caused by experimental signal harmonics, which was a polite way of saying we have no idea what just happened. But someone up the chain told us not to ask. But the real aftershock wasn't in systems or structure. It was in us. Ari hadn't sung since the gate closed. Her glow returned, dim, steady, natural. Her eyes were calm now, slower, no longer flicking like trapped birds. She spoke in softer tones, with longer pauses, as if she were listening to a frequency that had finally fallen silent. The chaos inside her had been muted, but so had something else. Joy. We stayed in quarantine under the guise of observation. No one dared enter. I kept the door locked anyway. On the third day, she turned to me while we shared a tray of lukewarm, rehydrated noodles. Her voice was barely audible. "It's not gone." I stopped chewing. "The creature?" She shook her head. "Them, the ones behind it. That was just one of many. A scout." An echo of a voice that hasn't finished speaking. A cold shiver ran down my spine. "You closed the gate," I said. We both saw it. "I closed a gate," she corrected. But the thread, what I carried, was just one note of a song. Older than our stars. The silence is a choir. It has more voices. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I already knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked the dim halls of Station Horizon alone, the hum of the generators more unsettling. Now than ever. I passed the observation deck, the place I'd first seen her. The stars looked the same, but I didn't trust them anymore. The universe had depth now. Too much depth. When I returned, she was waiting. "I saw something," she said. "When?" I touched it. When I sang it back. "What?" "A world." Covered in silence. No sound, no time, just waiting. And in the center of it, a structure. A spire of broken light. And they were listening. To what? To me. Ari placed a hand over her chest, over the place where the first thread used to pulse like an inner sun. They heard me. And they will come looking for what's missing. I sat beside her. "Then we prepare," I said. She blinked. "How?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But we start with the truth." So we recorded it all. Every note, every vision, every fracture. We pieced together the incident logs, harmonics, sketches, and memory imprints. We encrypted it, buried it in the core archives, and titled the file, "The Silence That Almost Sang." We left Horizon 2 weeks later. The Velian Council called for Ari's return. I told them she was under Earth's protection now. They argued. Earth's defense charter backed me. I made it very clear that if they wanted her back, They'd have to send more than diplomats. They didn't push .RE, and I found a quiet outpost, orbiting a binary sun. A forgotten listening post turned refugee base. Peaceful, lonely, perfect. We built something there, not just a life, but a defense. A network. A way to hear the next ripple. And we waited. Some nights, she still glowed brighter than usual. Some nights, I woke to find her at the edge of the platform, singing to herself not in fear, but in warning. "I'm not their gate anymore," she said once, "but I'm still part of the song." And I always answered the same way, wrapping my arms around her shoulders as the stars pulsed quietly in the black. Then let them come. In the end, I didn't save her. She didn't save me. We chose each other. And in a universe that had forgotten how to choose, that meant everything. Because whatever waits in the void, whatever still listens, will have to face us both.